was actually in a planning. So there had to be a reason for me to come back to the room.
Right.
So I was told that there was some struggles with some behaviors. I walk in there, and these two students had staged a fight. And when I say stage, I'm not like they weren't, they were just really arguing, but
Yeah.
they were trying to go, they were trying to go at each other. And so, and you know what it was about? It was about the Lakers and the LeBron James argument. And it's so funny. I'm like, but the thing is that it sounds really funny. Like, why would students argue over that? But if you just would have known the students, you're like, okay, that
That
okay,
makes
that checks out. Like, that's actually gonna be a real thing. And so they had done that, and then all of a sudden, all of my parents, my family, my wife, they come in with administration, and the students turned to me and just started pouring busting out laughing.
Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of your favorite teacher's favorite teacher podcast. And we have one of my favorite teachers, Josh. Listen, I'm gonna tell you guys straight up before I let him introduce himself. As an instructional coach in RLA, if you guys know, like, guys don't do instructional coach in RLA that much. So, like, I was surrounded with a whole bunch of young ladies in our meetings as instructional coaches until this young man came along. And when he came in there, it just made things so much better. Not saying that it wasn't fun with the ladies, but the stuff that me and Josh put together in those meetings when we had to do writings and stuff, man, it made it worthwhile. So without further ado, I'm gonna let I'm gonna turn the mic over to you, Josh, and why don't you tell the audience who you are, how long you've been teaching, and what it is that you teach. You got it, man.
All right. Hey, William, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. No, uh, before I started the instructional coach role, I was told, like, hey, you and William are going to get along just fine. And hey, and I will say the Kalahari Resort,
Oh,
without me being there, that would have been a real struggle for you trying to find a roommate. So, but no, no, I had a great time, and it won't be the same, man. It won't be the same. But I really did appreciate, for that being my first year as an instructional coach, I really appreciated having you there, and I looked at you as a mentor as well. So I said a little bit of those words on our last IC meeting of the year, but a little bit about me. So I really started this journey of education, kind of came through my mom. She was a second grade teacher, and she she had a passion for kids. Before that, she was an instructional aide, and she worked on getting her certification, and she became a second grade teacher. And um, we were in the small town of Longview, Texas, and we were in a part of a little 3A school district, Spring Hill ISD, and I went through that system from third grade all the way through high school. And if you can believe it or not, I had about 100 or so students in my graduating class.
wow.
And so we traveled together, going from elementary to middle school to junior high to high school, 100 students.
Wow.
And so it was a close, tight knit group. You don't really get that in a lot of places, with just the population exploding over the the past couple of years or so. But it was a great time. I always felt like I would go and help my mom sometimes in her classroom, and I did that in high school. And she said, "Hey, the kids really listen to you. They look up to you." And I enjoyed it because I enjoyed helping kids. And so that's kind of where my first step in the door um, came at. And I was really from that point on, education was always something I knew would be a possibility that I'd be getting into that. Um, I when I first started college, I was okay. I had two routes I wanted to go because I was really passionate about sports. Okay, what's an entry into sports? Sports management. Going maybe like a sports agent route, and then there was education. And so I was deciding between the two, and ultimately I wound up in going the education route, and I don't regret it. I really don't. It was um, I think looking back, it was absolutely the right decision, and I say education has done a lot of great things for me and also my family as well.
Wow. And how long have you been in education?
Yeah, so I've been in education for 10, well, let's see, 10, I just completed year 11.
Wow.
Year 11, I just completed, so I'll be starting year 12 next year. 10 of those years, I worked with sixth, seventh, and eighth graders,
Oh,
and
middle
I taught,
school.
yeah, I taught reading language arts, and so yeah, I spent most of my time with sixth grade. I
Okay.
spent 1 year in seventh, and then a couple years in eighth.
Okay.
And then this past year, I was an instructional coach for a year.
So like you've gotten to teach every level of middle
Mhm,
school. Let me ask you this because I too have gotten to do all of them, and I know that there's a certain group that's my favorite.
mhm,
Which
mhm.
grade of those three did you like the most, and why?
You know what? I, depending on the day that you ask me this, it might be a different answer.
Let's
But
say the beginning of
yeah,
the year, where they
so,
all have a clean slate.
so there's, you know what? I always, I'm just gonna do away with my pros and cons checklist because I gotta choose a grade level. Um, But you know what? I would say sixth grade.
Okay.
Sixth grade. If I was like looking at all my time, sixth grade was my favorite. Um, there's something about they come to junior high with some level of excitement because it's really new for them,
Yeah.
and they they really. I still feel like they do a good job listening
Yes.
between the three grade
Yeah.
levels. They do a pretty good job listening, and you know they still really like that bond with their teacher, and
Yeah.
they want to do things that please their teacher and make their teacher proud of them. So that really overall, I would say that would
I
be the grade level that I
I agree with you 100%, man.
yeah
Those sixth graders, that is the best part of the sixth grade to me is like they're still like eager
yeah
to be there and do stuff for you.
yeah
Uh, one of uh, one of the administrators that I look up to, he told me something some time back. He's like, "Hey, when you have students that are willing to run through a wall for you, now that there is an amazing class." And
hmm
I feel like the sixth graders are still willing to run through that wall.
they
Unlike the
are.
seventh and eighth graders, they just look at you like you're crazy if you're like,
They're a little more hesitant.
yeah, yeah, very much so. And so like that's a wonderful journey. You know, you say
Mhm.
that you've done this for over 11 years now, and
Yeah,
that's wow. Wow, thank you for that.
yeah,
And in that time frame, man, I'm sure that there have been some good days and some bad days for you,
hmm
which brings us to the next part of the podcast, the yin
hmm
and the yang. So in this portion of the podcast, what I'd like you to do is talk to the audience about your best day and your worst day as a teacher. And I say best day, worst day, but I prefer that we do it in the opposite order, where we start off with our bad days and we end on a good note with our best day.
I was
So
just going to ask if I could do that.
well, and that's the thing, in life we have good and bad, but
Mhm.
when you focus on the positive aspects of stuff, it always keeps things, going good. So
For sure.
whenever I have a guest on, I like them to talk to the audience that way, talk about that negative aspect, but end it
Mhm.
off on a good note. So I'll turn the mic over to you and I'll let you tell the audience about your worst day as a teacher and your best day as a teacher.
Sure. Sure. You could really throw a dart in my first year on a day, my first year teaching, and I probably might would have told you that would have been my worst day. But I no, I will say this. So first year teacher, 23-year-old coming out of college. Um, when they said fake it till you make it, what they really mean is don't let the students catch on that you're a 23-year-old fresh coming out of college. And the students caught on that I was a 23-year-old fresh coming out of college. And I will say, no, I, I, not for lack of effort, but I was not a very good teacher that first year.
Mm,
And it wasn't really to do with the content, but it was more with classroom management, engaging my students for a 90-minute period of time. But one moment sticks out to me because I really did have some classroom management struggles in that first year. And one moment sticks out to me. It was very clear, it was communicated to me very clearly that if I didn't improve, I would not be back the following year.
oh wow.
Yeah. And so that would probably be the lowest point of my point in education. And and I would say like it was deserved because I did need to improve. And that moment though, um it brought me, and our greatest struggle sometimes, that's an opportunity to show resiliency and
Hmm.
to improve and to show our greatest strengths,
Hmm.
even when times are going bad. And my instructional coach at that time really did fight for me to say, hey, um, give him another chance.
Right.
And and that really did mean the world to me because not only am I invested in myself and seeing me, but when you have somebody else that's saying, "Hey, like I see something in you, and look, I'm going to bat, I'm fighting for you," and so like that to me, it it really did help me in my career.
Well, and the thing that I'll say about this, and if we have people in the audience who are going to school right now to become teachers or first year teachers, I want you guys to understand that the stuff that we learn in school at, and when it's time for us to take the test, the number one thing they tell you is think of this as a perfect world scenario. The things that they teach us, it works in a perfect world scenario. But if you're dealing with students whose behavior is outside of the box or outside of the realm of conventional strategies and techniques, like you have to find other ways to address that behavior. And like it's I don't want anybody out there to think that you are insufficient as a teacher because the tools that were given to you in the beginning don't work perfectly. You can't fit that square peg into that circle hole. It's all right. There are teachers out there, instructional coaches out there that have strategies, different strategies that you can use to help you out. And Josh, you pointed out something um, that uh, makes me uh, want to ask you this question. You said that your
Mhm,
instructional coach went to bat for you. It is
mhm.
that does that play a role in why you wanted to become an instructional coach?
Absolutely. Um, and instructional coaches, they get to see multiple snapshots over time of what you're doing in the classroom.
Right.
Um, for and the nature of that is because I mean it's built into the role, and then you know I knew what she had done for me
Hmm.
in my first year as a teacher, and I wanted to do that for somebody else, you know, and just kind of adding on to your point of that perfect world and what they teach you. It's really when you don't have when you have maybe just years of observational experience, you haven't really added to your toolbox as much if you haven't communicated with kids with extreme levels of behavior and knowing how to read the situation very quickly
Hmm.
and what you can do to maybe diffuse a situation, be proactive in preventing it until it actually happens. And then you start reflecting, you're like, okay, what would I have done differently? Like, what could I have said? And so over the course of that year, I started trying things like, okay, um, all right, this student right here is distracting this other student. What when I redirect them and I approach them, I'm going to try phrasing it like this, and then seeing how they respond to that. And a lot of that was trial and error over that first, and a lot of error, but a lot of that was trial and error on that first year of figuring that part out. And those aren't exactly things um, that they teach you just on a communication level,
Right.
right? It's a lot of it. I would say about 90% of it is how are you coming across as an educator and how you're phrasing things with students on a junior high level, which is one of the most challenging levels to teach at. Um, and figuring that out and really zooming in on okay, this response didn't go over so well. I know I'm not going to go that route with the next one. And so that's really a lot of it is trying to figure those things out.
Right. Right. That is and that is so huge. Uh, take it from Josh. Try, try, and try again. And listen, as somebody who made those mistakes as well, I will tell you, teachers out there, new wannabe teachers out there, is try again. The importance of having the support that Josh talked about with the instructional coach. Guys, make that relationship with your instructional
Hmm.
coaches, and they can help you.
Hmm.
Make those relationships with your admin team, make
Hmm.
relationships with those veteran teachers because they are the ones that can pull you through these hard times, those
Absolutely.
worst days. And with that, let's talk about your best day, man. What was your
Yeah.
best day?
Yeah. So the year before I came an instructional coach, I actually won teacher of the year.
Awesome.
And I had spent 10 years at that same campus.
Hmm.
And in year 10, I had won it. And I was a finalist probably about I would say 5 years prior, but I didn't win it that year. And so the unique thing about being at a place for 10 years is that you start to not only just know the students, but you start to really know the families. You see a last name and you see there's a resemblance there, and then you find out that you maybe had taught a cousin. um, and this happened in year 10, my first year teaching. um, this young girl's cousin I had taught my first year teaching.
Wow.
So 10
Wow.
years later, 9 years later, I'm teaching part of the family, but um, it's really unique being at a campus for 10 years. And And a lot of people, I tell that to this, I don't know if I could spend 10 years at the same place. And I hear that. But there's also some unique, great things about teaching at a place for 10 years. But so I won Teacher of the Year, and being at a place for 10 years, something that had never happened was that my parents had never set foot into Maid Creek Junior High.
Oh, wow.
Never. Um, but they did that day. And so my parents live in town. And so, I really got a chance to really kind of show them what my, I mean, they hear stories, right? But they got to see a glimpse into my educator life. And, my wife was there. My then 1 year old was there. She's now 2. But that was my best day. And something that really made it interesting is that the students had played a prank on me for winning. I was actually in a planning, so there had to be a reason for me to come back to the room.
Right.
So I was told that there was some struggles with some behaviors. I walk in there, and these 2 students had staged a fight. And when I say stage, I'm not like they weren't, they were just really arguing, but
Yeah.
they were trying to go, they were trying to go at each other. And so, and you know what it was about? It was about the Lakers and the LeBron James argument. And it's so funny. I'm like, but the thing is that it sounds really funny. Like, why would students argue over that? But if you just would have known the students, you're like, okay,
That
okay,
makes sense.
that actually that checks out. Like, that's actually gonna be a real thing. And so they had done that, and then all of a sudden, all of my parents, my family, my wife, they come in with administration, and the students turned to me and just started busting out laughing. And they're like, "We got you, Mr. Andrews." So the day after that, I got a chance to. I gave them the best actors of the year award. I gave them a certificate and everything, because they did a great job. So
That is
that
amazing.
that that was that day stands out as the best. And it's the best for a lot of reasons. But yeah,
Well,
that
and you said earlier that well, your mother, she
yeah,
was also in education.
yeah,
Like for her to see her son win Teacher of the Year, like that had to be huge for her. Like,
yeah.
what did the conversation between you and your mom sound like when she found out that you were Teacher of the Year?
Yeah, yeah, no, something about her is that she has always pushed me to be the best that I
Wow.
can. She really was like, "Hey, John, okay, you got your certification to be a teacher. You graduated Texas A&M. Um, so from there, you really should go try to get your principalship." And so, like, she's always been like really a motivating
Wow.
person in my life. And so, just for that moment, it was really just, she told me how proud she was. And that's a big thing, whenever anybody's saying it. But when your parents tell you that, it's a great feeling. So um, that was definitely a day to remember.
Oh man. Well, I know you must have been like extremely excited. I mean,
Hmm.
and to actually have somebody who's been there, done that in your
Hmm.
life, be able to witness
Yeah,
the accomplishment that you have been able to do, man. I'm pretty sure words can't even explain the
yeah,
emotion that was running through you at that time.
many.
Uh well, and with your mother being a teacher, I'm pretty sure that she was probably one of your favorites, which brings us to the next part of the podcast. The namesake of the podcast, your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. And and On this part of the podcast, Josh, I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about different teachers, or you can even just talk about one that has made an impact on your life, not just in education, but like in whole,
Hmm.
overall, a teacher that has touched you, because there's so many of them out there, and we don't get the opportunity to give them their roses, while they're here. A lot of people, as educators, you
Hmm.
included, um, have touched so many people's lives, and you don't even know how you've affected them. So,
Hmm.
like, this is my homage to all of those teachers out there. This section and this podcast is like a way for us to give those roses to those people who otherwise would have never received it. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and I'll let you talk about your favorite teacher.
Um, Absolutely. And there's a lot, actually. I mean, there's a lot that I'm thinking through throughout the years because, whenever you start getting into being an educator on a professional level, like kind of going from that student to that professional level of being an educator, there's a lot of people that impact you there too.
Yeah.
And so that not only have impacted your life professionally, but and then I'm going to think about the ones who impacted me as a student. But yeah, number one, like I said, was my mom. Always pushing me to be better and to extend what you think you can do. Okay,
Right.
you achieve this goal. Okay, what's the next thing? And that was a great thing because it talked to me about it. Really helped me with like the growth part and pushing what you've achieved, and okay, you can achieve more. And so she's always been there with that voice, and I really appreciate her for that. And then so another one that stands out is my senior high school teacher, and her name was Ms. Yoder, and she became Ms. Bennett the year after, and that's whenever I had her. But she was an amazing English teacher,
Okay.
um, and I don't think I really realized it at the time, but her style was different than your traditional high school teacher because when I look back on it, what she did was she was doing workshops as a senior level high school teacher, and you know that that's not always the case, right?
Right. Right.
But she would put us in our independent reading situations, and she'd come around and talk with us about our reading, and that was something different that I had experienced, but um, her having that conversation with me on that personal level, like it really grew my knowledge because from those conversations, it really helped me with my reading, and it really helped me with the depth that I needed to go. Being a person who's about to graduate high school and go to the college level, because she helped me get to that depth. Um, so she absolutely stands out. I was an athlete in high school, so I had many coaches who played a role in building discipline and consistency and character. Um, Coach Chatterton was one of my favorites. And he was also my science teacher, and I looked up to him because he was funny, but also you knew that he had a line that you wouldn't cross, and he was just that perfect blend of being personable, but also somebody who um, taught you the value of discipline and consistency. And then professionally, I go back to my first year in my IC, and who really was looking out for me and saw my potential as an educator. And um, I would say I could go down and I could talk about to go down the list about the different leaders and that I've witnessed in terms of like the work ethic and the structure and the management and as an aspiring assistant principal, I look at that too and look and see the different leadership styles. And um, that's that's really kind of like a long-winded answer saying there's been a lot of people played a part in my life as
Yeah.
an
And I get that. And that's one of the things that when I have guests on, they attribute their success to a lot of people. The old adage, it takes a village to raise a
hmm
child. And apparently it takes a village to raise a teacher too, because we get assistance from so many other people as
Yeah.
well. And I totally get that. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into the next part of the podcast. There's so much great information that you have provided us with today, Josh, and I am really eager to hear what you have to say when we jump into the portion that I like to call the word or phrase. And in this portion of the podcast, I like to talk to the guest in advance and get a word or phrase that they feel passionate about that pertains to education. And when we talked earlier, you told me that your phrase was the responsibility to the team. And so I'm going to turn the mic over and I'll let you explain that phrase to our audience and tell them why that means so much to you.
Yeah. That's something responsibility to the team, and that's something that was instilled in me in junior high. And you know, being an athlete, it taught me about we're all in this together. And so when I think about responsibility to the team, it's about maximizing your own ability to help those around you. And when everybody's maximizing their own ability,
Hmm.
then that's one of the strongest teams you can have. Is that when everybody's on the same page, nobody wants to let the other person down. We all want to succeed at the highest levels, and and that really is a core to the visions of schools, or should be the core. And what I found is that many of the schools that I've taught at and the schools I work is that at the core, that's what everybody's striving to do, and um, that's the goal, right?
Right.
Is when we're at our best,
Hmm.
um, and we're lifting up people around us, then that in turn is going to not only impact the people we work with, but our students we teach as well.
And Josh, if you don't mind, when we spoke earlier, you had a story, an
Yeah,
anecdote about how you
yeah,
came to that realization. If you don't mind sharing that with the audience, talk to them about
yeah,
your experience.
yeah. So in junior high, so they rotated what they called was like a boot camp,
Hmm.
and this was for the athletes. And so when the athletes came in, we were doing our dress outs and everything. There would be a quote on the board, and we had to memorize a quote. And the quote that really stuck out to me was Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind us and lies before us are just tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And that stuck out to me probably in two ways. Number one is its message, and that's kind of goes back to us maximizing our own ability. But number two, it's because when the coaches prompted you, you had to say the quote, and if you didn't, then everybody's in push-up position before we start our drill. And until that gets figured out, until how somebody's going to communicate, like with Josh, if he forgot the quote, until somebody communicates that with me and somebody helps me out, then we're going to be in push-up position until that happens. And so that really taught me about, hey, um, responsibilities doesn't fall on one person. It is a team, and we're going to put you through a tough situation if we're not all aligned
Right.
as a team. And so there was never this um, you would think that at a junior high level there might be a lot of finger pointing, but really because we were all stuck in a tough situation in that moment, everybody's trying to lift each other up,
Right.
and nobody's just in the back saying this person forgot their quote. Too bad for them, because we're all in the same boat and we're all in the same situation. So um, that's that really was one of my first lessons on being on a team. You got to be selfless and not selfish.
That is
So
so true, man. And to the audience, like those words are truly wise. And I've seen in education where there can be selfishness. Well, my students scored this over your students, and but in the end, it's not just your student, my student, it's our student. You know,
mhm,
that's a huge thing in education because it's not just about me being successful, but it's about the team as a whole being successful. And I'm so
absolutely.
happy that you brought that to the podcast today because I'm sure there are teachers out there that need that message. That you may have forgotten your quote for the day, but there are other teachers out there that can help you with that. So
Yeah,
thanks for bringing that up. Um,
absolutely.
like I say, man, you've talked about some fantastic things today. Your worst day, your best day, being able to have your mom there when you won Teacher of the Year, talking about the responsibilities of a team as a whole. And as we close this podcast out, I want to give you an opportunity to um, do this new section that I'm putting into the podcast called the message to the public. And in this part, I want you to uh, we not only hopefully with this podcast are going to have people that are educators listening to the podcast, but that are parents, people just in the public that have no view of what education is. Because when I first, like me, I personally always wanted to be a part of education. And so the journey that I took to get here, it took me forever to get into it. Like I had plenty of time to have these dreams and thoughts of what it would be to teach students. You know, those old school movies of uh, coming into a classroom of a whole bunch of ruffians and teaching them the right way to go. And then at the end, they're like, Mr. Stubblefield, you're the greatest. I had those dreams. And then reality hit me like a ton of bricks when I came into the classroom. So, like, what I want to do is I want teachers to actually talk about what it's like to be an educator in today's society so that the public gets a real honest view of what it's like. So I'll turn the mic over to you and give you this opportunity to talk to the public about what it is for you as an educator.
Sure. I would say first off, when as an educator, my purpose has always been to serve students, and I've always done that to the best of my ability. My perspective on that grew even more whenever I had my own daughter. And when I had my own daughter, she's about two, and she'll turn 3 in February, so she's almost 2.5 now. But um, I've seen just how much, just in those short 2 years, how much she's grown, and in terms of not only just her physical attributes, but also like recognizing letters, recognizing colors, just seeing her learn. And so until I actually had her, um, I don't know if I really had the perspective of a parent, but now having the perspective of a parent now and how I would want an educator to be teaching my kid, and then the devotion that goes into my own student to all of our students. Yeah, I didn't quite realize that until I had my own. And so now that I do, it's just I have just even more so I have a newfound appreciation just for what all goes into that. Um, in addition to that, I would say that what a lot of people don't see, though, on the back end of that is that it's as an educator in today's world, it isn't just about the number one thing is the teaching in your classroom, but it is not just the teaching in your classroom now that goes into being an educator. I think when you see in the movies, you see a relationship between a teacher and his or her students, but what you don't see, what would be off camera, is the amount of paperwork,
Oh, yes.
the amount of phone calls,
Mhm.
the amount of planning that goes into the teaching field, the amount of data that is now looked at as a teacher, and so I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when teachers are through teaching that class period that they have, it is a 4 to 5 minute passing period. You're teaching your next class. There's never a moment where you can turn it off, where you can't be engaged with your students or what's happening really in the little bubble in the world that you're living. You're already thinking about, okay, how am I going to respond to this email? What feedback am I going to give on this student because I have somebody asking me for feedback on this student? How am I, and so you're doing a lot of just reflecting and thinking, um, and a lot of managerial tasks
Mhm.
that go into
Oh,
that as well. And so I don't think that people truly realize is that, they might think that there's maybe one, two, or three balls that you're juggling, trying to juggle, but it's more like 50.
yes. Yeah, that is so true,
and
man.
and don't drop a ball.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
don't
Don't drop one of them.
don't don't drop a ball.
I
Cannot
mean,
you can't you can't because
you got 50 of them, and if you drop that
yeah.
one, you're a failure. Wait, what about the other 49 I got? You know what? And you bring up some fantastic points, man. And I you know I didn't even think about all of that stuff. It's because we do that stuff on
Yeah,
such a regular basis. And to think, man, like if a teacher wanted to get out of education, they could probably get a job as a data analyst with as much stuff we analyze, right? How much data
absolutely.
we analyze.
And a professional development coordinator. I mean, like, there's just there's so many. I mean,
So many aspects.
and
Yeah.
and you know what? That's actually, that's that's a hard thing about this job. It's a
Mhm.
blessing about this job because then you really grow your skill set.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm appreciative of it. So I appreciate that level of work that goes into it. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Yes.
But there's some absolute benefits of, uh, of being able to juggle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, look, it's made the fantastic human being that you have become, the made fantastic human being that I've become. I mean, hey, they must be doing something right. Uh, and with that, man, once again, I thank you for coming on the podcast today. I've learned so much just having you on, man, and hopefully your message is spread out to other people to get to see what it's like to be in our
Yeah,
shoes as an educator, man. And every journey is different, and every experience is different, but there is a commonality in everything that we do, and it's the love of being there for our students. You talked
absolutely.
about what it was the newfound understanding that you have as a father
Hmm.
and what it means for your child's education. And I definitely want all of our audience to know that, all of us as educators, we feel that way. If you talk to any teacher and you ask them about their students, like, and I said this earlier, they refer to them as their kids, like their
Hmm.
own, and like that can't be uh, understated. I mean, overstated enough because the passion that our teachers have for our students. So I'm gonna uh, turn the mic over to you one last time to let the audience know like where they can find you on the social medias,
All right.
or how they can get in contact with you if they want to talk to you or pull you in to have you talk to their students or their staff. So provide the audience with your contact information, buddy.
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter at well, not Twitter, I guess it's X now, but
Excellent.
Josh S Andrews, and that's JOSHS, and then Andrews ANDREWS. I've got some things on my Twitter profile. You can probably see a little bit into my glimpse of more of my educational journey throughout that timeline, and really my 10 to 12 years in this field. And um, so you can reach me there. Um, I am always open. If you have any questions or anything that you need from me, feel free to reach out. If you want to know a little bit more about, like, you want me to elaborate a little more on some of my journey and my story, I'm absolutely willing to do that. And thanks so much, William, for having me on. It was a pleasure. I really love what you're doing here, man. And I know you have a great talent pool to pull from.
Yes,
'Cause we have a
yes,
lot of outstanding educators.
we do.
So I really do appreciate you having me on here today.
Yes, man. Like I said, it's been an honor to have you on the podcast here today. And that is the Your Favorite Teacher's Favorite Teacher podcast. Goodbye and peace. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Your Favorite Teacher's Favorite Teacher podcast. If you have a story you'd like to share, please contact me at wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. Again, that is wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. And you could be our next inspirational story of how educators impact our lives. I'm your host, Mr. Stubblefield, and I want you to remember, no profession is possible without your favorite teacher.